Hello friends, welcome back to another video of Automation Testing Insider. So today I'm going to talk about an important software development model, that is Agile Model. You can call it as Agile Development Process Model, Agile Process, or Agile Methodology. And this is a very important software development model which is widely used and frequently used by different software development companies. And this is you should aware of what is the agile process. Every QA must know about this process, and this model is mainly focused on the delivery of the software, the frequent delivery of the software to the customer, irrespective of the documentation. So we mainly focus on the delivery of the software to the customer. Now in agile model, like we have seen in different software development models earlier, like waterfall model, spiral model, V model, there were some drawbacks. So all those drawbacks are overcome by this software development model, which is agile model. Now there are different terms we have been using in agile process, and there are different meetings as well. So I'll take you to my system where we'll discuss more about like what is the complete process of agile development process model. So let's get started. So guys, let's talk more about agile development model, or you can call it as agile methodology or agile process model. Now there are a couple of things which is very much important in agile, like continuous delivery of this software to the customer, and the second thing is handle the requirement change. So these are the two important concept of agile development model. So unlike in previous models, we have seen we mainly focus, we have done so much on documentation part, and they are not capable enough to handle the requirement change. But here in agile development model, we mainly focus on continuous delivery of the software to the customer and handle the requirement change, handle the frequent requirement change in the software. So these are two important points about the agile development model. Now there is a certain process to follow the agile development model. There are certain stages. Now take an example. We got the project from one customer, and duration of that project is 1 year. Now we divide, customer wants the software in every 2 weeks. So we'll divide the software, we'll divide the complete requirements into different modules. So like this. So take an example, this is X, this is Y requirement, this is Z. So we have divided the different requirements into different modules. So each module, they want the software in every 2 weeks. So that 2 weeks duration is nothing but our sprint cycle. So sprint cycle is of 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks we'll release the software to the customer. Now in that 2 weeks we have to follow the complete agile process. So what are the different steps we have in agile process model? So in agile development, we have planning of the sprint. We have design. So design, we have seen like high level design, low level design, we have discussed earlier. And then we have develop, and we have testing the software, and release, and last feedback. So this is the complete process of agile development model, guys. So we have planning of the particular sprint, and then design, we'll do the design, and development or coding, you can say coding, and testing of the software, release the software, and get the feedback from the customer. Now, so this agile development model is also called iterative I mean, it is the combination of iterative development plus incremental. Why it is iterative? Because what do you mean by iterative? So we have seen in iterative development model, when we keep doing the same thing again and again is called iterative. So this is my module 1 or sprint 1. So we have followed plan, design, develop, test, release and feedback. So similarly we'll do for, so this is sprint 1. Now we'll follow the same for sprint 2 as well, sprint 2 cycle or module 2. So that's why it is iterative development model plus incremental. Why it is incremental? So we have divided our task into different modules. So we have divided our task into different module. So this is module 1. We made some changes on module 1. I mean, we have developed some module, we have developed some requirements on module 1 and we'll add in module 2. So we'll keep adding our requirements till we get the final product. So this is kind of incremental, module 1 plus module 2, module 3, like that. So that's why it is incremental model as well. So it is iterative plus incremental. Now there are few terms, guys, and different meetings are there in Agile development model. So let's talk about them in detail. What are those different terms we have? So sprint we have discussed. Sprint. So it is nothing but the modules. We have divided the task into different modules, and each module is of 2 weeks. So that is nothing but the sprint. We'll plan, design, develop, test, release and get the feedback. So this is sprint. Now we have Scrum. What do you mean by Scrum? Basically in Agile process we have I mean, to follow the Agile process we need to follow certain framework. So Scrum is nothing but a framework that helps the team work together, or it is a work culture to follow the Agile development model. So that is Scrum. Now in Scrum we have Scrum Master. Before that, owner product owner. So who is the product owner? So it could be the head from the marketing team who deals with the customer, or it could be from top management uh, individual as well. So who handles the requirements from the customer, who talks about the product with the customer, is called the product owner. Now we have Scrum Master. Scrum Master. So what do you mean by Scrum Master? So it can be project manager, or project manager can be Scrum Master. But the difference is manager handles different projects at the same time, and Scrum Master is particularly for this particular project, or this particular Scrum. So that is Scrum Master. Now we have user stories. What do you mean by user stories? User story. So user story is nothing but the requirement which we got from the customer. Like we have divided them into different sub requirements. We got some requirements from the customer, and we have divided them into different features: X feature, Y feature, Z feature. So one user is, I mean, one user story could be a combination of two features, or one feature, or it could be 1 plus 2 feature. If it is like a small feature, then it may have only one feature. If it is like if it is big feature, then it may have only one feature. And if it is kind of small requirements, if you have small requirements, multiple requirements, then it could be multiple features. So that is nothing but the user story. Now what next? We have product backlog. Product backlog. So what do you mean by product backlog? So product backlog is nothing but the combination of different user stories. we keep in the product backlog. From there we'll pick and plan for the particular sprint to develop that requirement. So that is product backlog. You can say the requirements are split into user stories for any particular sprint, and user stories are picked from the product backlog. Now what is next? We have epic. What do you mean by epic? So epic is kind of again the same thing, but it has large number of requirements in epic. So we have large number of requirements in epic, and this product backlog is for particular sprint. We keep all the user stories there and we pick it from here. But whereas the epic contains different requirements, so we contain, it is also a combination of different user stories, but maybe for different sprints, like sprint 1 2, it contains all those requirements in epic. Another point is story point. Another term is story point. So what do you mean by story point? So it defines the complexity of the user story. So it defines the complexity of the user story with respect to dev and testing team, like how complex the particular user story. And the next thing is swag. Another term is called swag. So basically in swag what happens is it is way to compare the size, time and effort to develop any particular user story. Size, time and effort. Now we conduct different meetings, guys. So one of the meeting is sprint planning meeting. Sprint planning meeting. So what do you mean by sprint planning meeting? So Scrum Master conducted this meeting before the start of the sprint to discuss about the user story that can be covered in particular sprint, and the timeline of the same would be discussed in this. The timeline for the same would be planned in this sprint planning meeting. Now another term is burn down. Probably you might have heard that, burn down. You are burn down. So what do you mean by burn down? So it is the let's say that it is the graph between time and work, which shows that how much work is remaining for the project. It is shows that how much work is remaining for the project between time and work. This is burn down. And another term we have burn up. Burn up and burn down chart. Probably you might have heard that. So how much work is done, how much work has been completed is called the burn up, and whatever how much work is remaining is called burn down. Now we used to have daily stand-up meeting as well. Daily stand-up meeting or scrum meeting. This is also called scrum meeting. So what happens here is every day we need to have this daily stand-up meeting where we'll discuss like how much work has been done yesterday, what the work we have done yesterday, what we are doing today, and what we're going to plan for tomorrow. So these are all things discussed in this scrum meeting. So sometimes product owner is also joining this meeting, but scrum master conducting this meeting to discuss about the progress about the project. And we have what else we have sprint review meeting, guys. One more meeting we have sprint review meeting. So this sprint review meeting is conducted at the end of the, once sprint is completed, we conduct this sprint review meeting, so where we'll discuss about how I mean, how it was the previous meeting. So this is optional meeting actually, sprint review meeting. So at the end of the sprint, it is conducted. But there is one important meeting, that is sprint retrospective meeting. Sprint retrospective meeting. So what happens in this sprint retrospective? So at the end of the sprint, or when we have started the new sprint, we conduct this sprint retrospective meeting, where we'll discuss like what went wrong in the previous sprint, what went good, what went well. So all these things discussed in this sprint retrospective meeting. And at last we have defect triage meeting. Defect triage, I can write here, defect triage meeting. So what do you mean by that defect triage meeting? So here, let's say we have 2 weeks of sprint cycle, 2 weeks, right? So at the end of the first week, we'll conduct this defect triage meeting. So in this particular meeting, the dev team, testing team, um, probably product owner is also joined this meeting, and we have a scrum master. So here we'll discuss about the progress, like how many defects are open state, and whatever defects we have closed. But basically we'll discuss about how many defects are in open state, and we'll prioritize them to fix them as soon as possible. And in case if any defect is not important, then we can defer it to the next sprint if it is not important. So do not worry about the defect related things, guys, like what do you mean by defer the defect, or how to prioritize, how to give the severity to the defect. We'll discuss in defect life cycle later on. So these are all different terms we use in agile development model, and different meetings we conduct in agile development process model. So in the next slide, I'll revise like whatever we have discussed so far, guys. Most of the points I have covered in this particular slide, but I have already mentioned in the notes, in the form of notes. So we'll discuss in next slide. So let's get started. So agile methods breaks. What do you mean by agile development model? Okay, so agile methods break the task into smaller iterations. We have seen that, or parts to directly involve long-term planning. We have seen one complete 1 year project. The project scope and requirements are laid down at the beginning of the development process. So we have divided into different modules or sprints to develop them. All the team members should work together to deliver a quality product. So this is the main focus of agile development model. Management is also involved continuously in this project. So we have product owner, scrum master, dev team, and testing team, and along with management also involves, higher management also involves in the agile development process model to follow the process, to follow the complete project. It is one of the most widely used process in software development world, as it helps team to deliver the work faster in small increments with less issues. So this is the main agenda of agile development model. Now we'll just recap what we have done in agile process. So customer satisfaction by rapid continuous delivery of useful software here in agile process. So we can monitor the project progress every day. Every release is implemented in iterations or sprints. So this is what we have discussed. Every iterations or sprint consists of 2 or 3 weeks in general. So it depends on project to project, company to company. Like it could be, I mean, it mainly for 2 or 3 weeks. In some companies, they used to follow in 1 week sprint cycle as well. However, the sprint duration varies from project to project, and also sprint to sprint as well sometimes. Many meetings were involved in this agile process to know the progress of the release in each sprint. Now these are the different terms, guys, which we have already talked about, like product backlog. User stories requirements are split into user stories will be added here in product backlog. For any particular sprint, user stories will be picked from product backlog, and
worked upon. Epic, it is the complete feature or requirement which needs to be implemented, that we have discussed. User story, an epic is split into user stories based on the complexity of work involved in order to develop it. User story is generally part of epic. So we have seen in epic we contains all the different user stories. In case of a small feature, it will be a single user story. Story points also we have discussed. So it is measurement to define the complexity of the user story from dev and QA perspective. So basically, what do you mean by story points? So it defines the complexity of the user story. How complex is for development of that particular user story, and how complex it is for testing purpose. So this activity will be done in sprint planning. Burn down chart. So we have seen burn down and burn up. So this is pictorial representation of time and work. Pictorial representation of time and work. Time and work. Team needs to burn the hours on daily basis for the work accomplished against the task. Different agile meetings also we have discussed. So sprint planning meeting at the beginning of the sprint cycle, we used to conduct the sprint planning meeting conducted before the start of the sprint to discuss the user stories that can be covered in the particular sprint, and the timelines for the same would be planned. Daily stand-up or Scrum meeting. It is conducted to know the work done by each in the team. Mainly the below things are discussed. So what work we have done yesterday, what work is planned for today, what work is planned for tomorrow, and any impediments to work to complete the work. Impediments means any obstacles or any problems we are facing to complete the work. Will be discussed in this particular daily stand-up meeting. And we have a sprint review meeting is conducted at the end of the sprint to discuss the progress and where does the team stand for the sprint. However, this is optional meeting as I have discussed earlier, which is conducted based on the project companies as required. Sprint retrospective meeting. So this is an important point or important meeting is conducted once the sprint is completed and next sprint got started. Following things will be discussed, like what went well in the last sprint, what didn't well the last sprint, and what can be done to improve uh, or perform well in the ongoing sprint. So these are the points which we discuss in retrospective meeting. Defect triage meeting. So this is an important meeting is conducted to review and have a proper action on the defects, which I talked about. Dev team, testing team, and sometimes product owner also will be involved in this meeting. Defects identified in the particular sprint will be triaged and assigned to respective team or defer sometimes depending on the defects. So sometimes any defect is not important to fix, so we'll defer it for the next sprint. So what are the different advantages of agile process, guys? So customer satisfaction by rapid continuous delivery of useful software, and working software is delivered frequently. So this is an important point about the agile development model. And quickly release are expected if any large requirement are split, so that development and testing is completed in the week schedule. And customer, developers, and tester constantly interact with each other. So these are some advantages of agile development model. Now, yeah, daily cooperation between business people and developers. So these are some advantages of uh, so that when we have such advantages, then we can deliver the software very frequently to the customer. Now let's talk about some of the disadvantages of agile model. So sometimes in agile methodology the requirements is not very clear. Hence it is difficult to predict the expected result. So it happens sometime when we don't have the clear requirement from the customer. In few of the projects at the starting of the software development lifecycle, it's difficult to estimate the actual effort required. So since there is an ambiguity in the requirement, so it is very tough to estimate like how much time it will take to develop for testing. All those things we cannot estimate properly because of the ever evolving feature. There is always a risk of everlasting project. So if requirements keep changing, if you are not capable enough to handle those requirements, so then in that case it will be very difficult to handle the project. For complex projects, the resource requirements and effort are difficult to estimate. If it is kind of big project and complex project, and so in that case we are unable to handle the things properly. And these are some certifications, guys, about the agile. Like we have certified Scrum professional, certified Scrum master, again agile certified coach, we have agile certified practitioner, and safe for agilist. So these are different certifications we have. If you want, we can discuss more about, I'll create a separate video on this, like different agile certifications. So this is all about agile process, guys. So I'll keep the notes in my blog later on. So please, if you like this video, please like it, share it, and comment if you have any questions. And please subscribe this channel if you haven't done so far, and click the bell icon to get the notification for upcoming videos. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Bye bye.